If you don't know the truth, this will be shocking. If you do know the truth, it will still be shocking. With truth comes much pain and awareness and a shift in consciousness. I want to remind the listener that while truth can be uncomfortable, it's the only thing that's real, and a denial of it creates a false perception of reality that brings more pain and suffering to the one who is in denial. This is my fate, fatam, where fate means that which is spoken. Government. When one asks, what is government? Most assume that it is a necessary institution of sorts that provides services, protections, and benefits to those who are within it. While this is true in some parts, it's not true in all parts. For many people, they really struggle with understanding the concept of natural plants being illegal or laws on what human may consume. Those concerns over laws may even stretch to the realization that there are even more practices, such as abortion and circumcision, which do in fact and truth harm and injure other living beings with full protection of the law. And the general sense is that there is a seesaw of good and bad, and one must take both, even if they do not wish to. However, my Creator gifted me with discernment and lessons that led me to understand that if there is even one fault, there is a fault from the outset. There can be no faults in truth. To know the truth, one must ask. So I did. I asked, what is the government? And can I remove myself from the obligations that I do not agree with in my spirit? What is the government? Well, first off, a name dictates a thing. A name is the concept from which a thing is described. Government means control, and ment comes from mind. So government literally means mind control. As you can imagine, I don't ever remember agreeing to anyone controlling my mind, and surely such a thing is not allowed. So this sparked my interest. Natural law or common law? On my journey, I came to find natural law. Funnily, this seems a natural point on a pathway to truth that anyone might reach. I already knew there was a creator of this earth and myself because I've known about physics, electromagnetism, quantum frequency, density, and many other things. But more than anything, it has taught me of morality. Upon reading natural law and fully grasping it, I now know that there are not only natural mechanical laws here on Earth, such as for every force there's an opposing force, but also that there are spiritual or moral laws. All of the laws known to mankind stem originally from natural law. This is why it is natural for my standing to be upon the earth and upon natural law. I say upon with clear reason, because I know, and you know, like all others, that natural law is below us. We still have free will. Now, most people who realize the mind control system is reducing them to a much like compliant robot, they tend to lean towards common law. This is because one would assume common law is the law common to us, such as natural law and free will. I don't believe that's true, but if common law is the natural law, then you could invoke that too. Birth certificate persona ficta. I also discovered on this journey to finding truth that there has been a distortion of the English language. The ish part of English, I think, is a clear giveaway, but also the fact that it is well known to be the hardest language to learn. Knowing this made it much easier to see how there is a fraud occurring in the use of English language itself. There is no accident that corporation has two meanings. The second of, which literally translates to corp from corpse, and oration as in a funeral. Now, it is clear from the usage of corporation that one may be talking about a business or a funeral for a dead corpse. Now, how might we be sure that the receiver of such language understands its true intent? Of course, language is the most used and the only way of knowing someone's intent. So that which wishes to control our free will and in turn control us would have much interest in creating and dispersing a language that means the opposite of what the victim, manipulated, or ignorant is intending to say. This design would make the oppressor feel as though they aren't breaking natural law, as the interpretations of such language could be twisted so as to mean agreeance. However, controlling others in itself is injurious and harmful and against natural law and free will. Manipulation and mind control, which, let's remember, means government, is in direct conflict and breach of natural law. Language in this case, when adulterated to mean the opposite of what one is intending, is in breach from the outset, because it is forcibly taught to an innocent baby or child before they even have the capacity yet for choice. One may presume, however, that it was a choice to be within the government or society through the use of registration and the birth certificate. So it would be wise for us to discuss that possible reasoning before we continue. The birth certificate and registration is told to be compulsory, without the option of free will, upon the mother, parent, father, who are already themselves registered. If this is the case, why is a signature needed from the parents to create one? If it is compulsory, the government wouldn't need the signature of consent, not to be mistaken as a consent from the parents. Also, if the baby born automatically becomes property of the government, to be able to dictate that it need to be registered to become property of them, then the government has knowingly entered a free, natural, living being into slavery before there is any consent or agreement. If the mother or father already been registered themselves makes any property of the mother or father be automatically transferred to the government, then they would still be able to change their position at any time and return to natural law. Oh, make no mistake though, the baby or child cannot agree to anything at all, as it is in a position of trust. The ultimate trust has already been formed through the child's co-creator, the mother. The baby or child being within the mother's body has relied upon her for replication, growth, energy, and safety for roughly, 9 months already. Because this natural trust cannot be broken, as it is placed in natural law, the government cannot automatically enter the baby or child into slavery or bondage. This proves the consent or signature required mentioned previously. So there is already a clear fraud and deceit that's occurred, and that the government has stated it is compulsory to register a baby or child, but it cannot be compulsory. So the government has knowingly committed fraud upon the mother or father by not explaining why the signature or consent is needed. In legal law, you need not have understood or known a law to still be held guilty of breaking it. Wow, how useful. But in natural law, which clearly did apply due to the natural trust that had already been created, they were required to inform and disclose all the elements of the contract. This renders the initiation of the birth certificate and registration agreements null and void from the outset and from the intent to commit this fraud. The fraud continues to enlarge and more fictions are created as it continues, as so happens with all lies, right? The name of the baby on the certificate contains even yet more intentional frauds. It labels a person. A person is a corporation, body corporate, incorporated body, legal entity, or whatever other fictional thing you want to come up with. The parents most certainly did not know this. I have asked every man or woman that I have ever met, and they did not know this. There is no indication on the registration forms or birth certificate that this is creating a corporation, body corporate, incorporated body, or legal entity. The parents, and I say that loosely because the government intends for that to mean parent companies, did not have full disclosure about what was happening, what natural law was, whether it being compulsory was true, and certainly did not know that they were selling their child. It seems to get even more dubious when we factor in the teaching of the child that they are a person. They are led to believe their entire lives that they are the sum of what's on that piece of paper. This is how the schooling system gets the people to say that they are a fiction, a dead entity, a piece of paper, something registered and owned by someone else. Where the school does a roll call and calls out the names of these corporations, and the child must say, "I'm here," as if that is them. They have no full disclosure from the outset and all through their lives to be able to see that they are acting fraudulently by saying they are something that they themselves do not own. They do not realize with real eyes that they are impersonating a fictional idea rather than being their true, divine selves. The legal system is the stage, and the innocent are the unwilling, unknowing actors who have been mind-controlled, governed, and submitted into the obedience of their roles. They cannot act as a corporation because they are divine energy within the body, but not it. The use of words like my in reference to my hand, my body, my mind shows that we know the body is not us. If we were the body, we could control every aspect of it, for it would be us. However, the body grants us the sense to interact with our energetic environment so that we may experience this reality, but it will readily turn those features off to protect our minds or heal us. We do not control the blinking or the heartbeat among all the other interconnected webs of design that the body encompasses. That's because we are spirit, soul, energy. So if one is led to believe that they are the body or the body corporate or corpse, then they are only connecting with that which is not themselves, rendering all divine aspects of themselves, in essence, dead. This fraud and lack of full disclosure creates so much havoc and pain because without the knowledge of self, one cannot see truths. This brilliant but terrible magic trick creates a distorted reality of the soulless walking dead. Where living souls, spirits, and energy believe that they are a dead corpse oration, and so act as if there is no creator, no divine purpose, and no meaning. This is what causes all of the horror on the earth. This elaborate fraud is harming and injuring, and that deems it in direct repulsion and destruction to the natural laws. This again renders this null and void, and upon the knowing of a fraud, one must undo and remedy it immediately. Another matter is that the birth certificate contains no real evidence of what it is for. It is a public record that anyone can request, and there is no photograph or other divining factor to prove that it is of a divine being. The birth certificate itself in New Zealand says this certificate is not the evidence of the identity of the person presenting it. The birth certificate is evidence and proof of intent to aid and abet via non-disclosure and deception or fraud. Phonics and etymology. Phonics is the basis of all language. The sound must be discovered first before one can write it. So just like with the child or baby, one must make the sounds before one can write the words. An example of the natural law of phonics is this. I see that you know the wise ask wise. The reason you can read that and know what I've said is because phonics is natural law. It is a natural formation of sounds to mean certain frequencies. We choose ourselves what sounds mean what. For one may say sheep and one may think it means a farm animal, or one may think it means someone who follows. The sound may not always be the meaning, and thus the way the words are sounded and make sense is the true intent. The ego doesn't want us to write how I did in my example. That is because the creative nature, the divine energy, has been frauded away from us through the system of control that doesn't express the phonics but instead sets rules for their use. The same system says that we must say we are a person, which means a corporation. It is no wonder that we cannot see the truth in the words around us. We are part of the lie, the fraud, and deception. That we are insignificant, when if we choose to see and observe, we would notice all the truths of divinity, plan, fate, purpose, and magic all around us. So when we record a birth, we again, cording, tying, binding a birth for ships at the doctors, following a relationship in relation to ships. When we get a midwife between my wife to register royalty or control at the deliver a product room, and the producer certificate of manifest passport to pass through the port. What of the baby Babylon who came down the birth canal waterway after the waters broke in her relationship and the midwife was added to adulter them into signing the sigil of nature, the sign of nature, the sole owner, the ownership to the crown, queen, royalty after crowning, coronation, ion, mind, energy. The availability to know the truth of the use of phonics and deception is the terminology used in the legal system and its relation to death and control. For example, we spend the weekdays and the weekdays to finally make it to the weekend where the week ends. We may finally have time to spend time with our kid, not the baby goat kind. We may write and order a book with the correct spelling of our spells using proper grammar, not grimoire. We are born, bound into a cell, spell, using the internet, corpse in a grave, net caught, or the world wide web caught as a prey. We all don't really want our rights, religion, rectus, right ruled. We all don't need the cash flow of the river banks holding the currency. We all don't need ownerships, citizenships, memberships, friendships, or hardships, unless we really are in the holy see. We must have misfortune and end up in cohort game of law. They may summon the legal entity dead and ask us to all rise from our deaths to go through this process, procurse, to take a pacifyment of the mind. When we're awake, a vigil, we say good morning, don't confuse, lie or blind. We still earn ashes, a living to be part of our culture. Natural trust. Here we come to the clear path of natural law is the true law, and we have found it is and must be because it comes from truth and not fiction. How can anyone judge if no one is perfect and there is no clear evidence of harm or injury? We all know upon natural law that to judge each other is wrong and lacks the insight we need. The Bible speaks of this too, however it uses a form of doublespeak, meaning it can say that we should or not, which could mean not, and therefore contradicts itself too much to be worded here. I can neither swear nor affirm on a document or a document, since I was taught swearing is wrong or bad, and affirm is a type of company. To do either would be against my conscience and knowledge. Being that there are two options, human psychology has proven that we're more likely to pick one and miss the option of just saying no altogether, as no is the secret, barely spoken word. One can see that there is a trust involved in court or crown matters. There will be an executor, an administrator, a trustee, a beneficiary. However, there's an invocation of a higher trust, that is a natural law trust, where one is ignorant of the facts and is being coerced into a non-beneficiary agreement, that it would be null and void from the outset due to the manipulation of natural trust law. The reason we have such collusion and conflict, deception and manipulation is due to the breach in natural law in the first place. These things cannot exist when natural law has been invoked. How free do you believe I am? Well, it would be up to you to prove that I am not already free. Free will is the proof of innate divine choice upon natural law. There can be no denial that free will exists, it is plain to see. So there can be no denial of natural law likewise. When a government says fundamental or substantive right, it means natural law, but the mere calling something a right does not make it a right. Natural law is the law of the Creator as revealed in nature. All of us are a witness to the natural laws of natural consequences. Natural law is always right and can never be wrong. Free will cannot be delegated from one to another. It is of the Creator that they exist at all, and are naturally irrevocable. The sum of natural law is very simple. One must act as though one's choices are to become universal law and thus could be mirrored or reflected back to them one day. Natural law is seen as being independent of or pre-existent to the positive law of any given political order, society, or nation-state. Record. One could speculate that if I as a baby have been delivered and then recorded, that the cutting of the umbilical cord was fictionally reattached to the crown. There is the matter of having to apply for a name change, also proving with no doubt that the legal name is not my property. Such frauds and truths render this matter again null and void through the false impersonation of a legal name, persona ficta. Every single other natural living being on earth is under and operates only with natural law, except us. You really think this is just a coincidence? This is what the biblical texts really mean about being reborn or redelivered. Resurrect yourselves and become your true divine selves rather than the enslaved name. We all know real freedom begins in the mind, and your subconscious knows that they own your name. All acts only bind the crown, and the crown owns your name. Stop being the crown and take hold of your crown chakra today. I make these videos because I love humanity. So please like and subscribe to help support this channel and also so that you see future content.